But the GOP is going to dig up everything and more that they can.
Yeah. And probably lie at some point. I mean,
Is there something new you want to get ahead of?
no, I mean, like I've lived my life. I've been there for the whole thing. And
I am sorry. I am someone that believes in character. I am someone that believes that morals matter. But because of the state of this country, if I lived in Maine, I would hold my nose and I would vote for Platner. I think he should step down at this point. I think there's no question about that. He has until, I believe, July 13th. I think we are in this existential crisis, and we need, as a Democratic Party, to have.
What's up, family? So let's talk about the Graham Platner situation. Because this thing is not just a normal campaign scandal anymore. This is one of those stories where you can see the whole political machine start smoking in real time. Graham Platner is a Democrat running for Senate in Maine against Republican Susan Collins, and this race matters because Democrats look at Maine like one of the seats they need if they want power back in the Senate. So this was not some random small race nobody cared about. This was supposed to be a serious pickup chance. But now the whole thing is falling apart because Democrats backed a man with a rap sheet that should have had them asking questions a long time ago. And we are talking about a guy who called himself a communist in old post. We're talking about a tattoo that looked like a Nazi symbol, a tattoo he later had covered up. And we're talking about reports that he went after veterans, Purple Heart recipients, and even a fallen Navy SEAL. And we are talking about past allegations from women, including domestic violence claims that some people try to dismiss because the woman had worked with Republicans. And then on top of all of that, Politico reported a serious rape allegation from his ex-girlfriend, Jenny Rassicot, who says he forced himself on her in 2021 while intoxicated. Platner denies it. And let me say that clearly, family. He denies it. I'm not sitting here saying I know exactly what happened in that room because I do not. And I am not a court. I am not a detective. I am not a witness. But this video is not really about me pretending to know every private detail. This video is about the standard. And this is about the same people who told America for years that character matters, morals matter, believe women, believe survivors, vet candidates, protect democracy, protect decency, all that stuff. Then when it's their own candidate, now all of a sudden they start doing math like an accountant, trying to make a bad invoice balance. And family, this is where my accountant brain kicks in because when the numbers don't add up, you do not just yell louder. You check the books, and the books on this one look ugly. The whole thing came to head on The View because Alyssa Farrell Griffin started naming the disqualifiers, which we'll get to in a minute. And Sunny Houston basically gave the game away. She said she believes in character or morals, but she would hold her nose and vote for Platner anyway, right? That was the beginning. That was the first clip I showed you how she was having that energy earlier on when Graham Platner was running. That is the contradiction right there, though, because Sunny Houston says she believes in character or morals, but will vote for Platner anyway. You cannot say the standard matters and then throw the standard in the trash when your side needs one more Senate seat. And now, as you guys seen, her whole demeanor changed, and she says she believes that basically Graham Platner should step down. I'll play the first clip again. Don't take my word for it.
I am sorry. I am someone that believes in character. I am someone that believes that morals matter. But because of the state of this country, if I lived in Maine, I would hold my nose and I would vote for Platner. I think he should step down at this point. I think there's no question about that. He has until, I believe, July 13th.
There you have it. Energy change. You heard her say at first, I will hold my nose. Now it's changed. So, walking through the rap sheet, family, because context matter, you can't understand why the View moment was so crazy unless you understand how much stuff Democrats had already looked past before the newest allegation even came out. First, you had the self-described communist thing. Some people would say, Key, why are you making a big deal about a word? Because words mean things. Communist is not just some edgy internet word. That ideology is tied to poverty, force, government control, and mass death around the world. You do not have to have a history professor to know that. If a Republican candidate had old posts calling himself a fascist, Democrats would not say, well, maybe he was just joking online. They would say he is disqualified from public life. They would run ads on it every day. So if a Democrat candidate is calling himself a communist, do not act shocked when people say, hold up, What kind of person are y'all putting up on the ballot? Then came the tattoo issue. Reports say Platner had a tattoo that looked like a Nazi link skull symbol. He said he did not know what it meant when he got it. He later covered it up. Fine, that's his defense. But family, let's keep it real. If a Republican had a tattoo that looked like a Nazi symbol sitting on his chest for years, we already know the media would not give him 10 chances to explain his personal growth journey. They would call him a threat to democracy before breakfast. Then you add the old online comments and the veteran issue. This man is a veteran himself, Graham Platner, but reports around the campaign talked about him mocking or smearing wounded veterans, Purple Heart recipients, and a fallen Navy SEAL. That is not small. In regular life, if somebody at your job talks reckless about people who served, got wounded, or died, you are going to look at them different. You may still work with them, but you're not going to put them in charge of the office. Then we get to the woman, right? This is where the hypocrisy gets loud. There were domestic violence allegations from an ex-girlfriend towards Graham Platner. One of the ways people tried to wave that away was by pointing out that she had worked with Republicans. Family, listen to how wild that sounds. For years, the line was believe all women. But now when a woman has the wrong politics, the line becomes, well, who did she work for? That is not believing in women. That is checking party registration first. And that is not a moral standard. That is a political filter. It is believe all women except Republican women. And that is why people stop trusting these slogans, because they hear the slogan when it helps the party. Then they see the party throw the slogan away when it hurts the party. Then the political story drops, right? Jenny Resicott, his ex-girlfriend, comes forward and alleges that in 2021, while he was intoxicated, he entered her room and forced himself on her. Again, Platner denies it. That matters. Due process matters. But the political point is that this was not just some random conservative meme page saying it. This was reported by Politico, as you guys can see on the screen from Politico. And that is not MAGA Twitter. That is not a Trump rally. That is mainstream political media. So Democrats cannot just do the normal move and say, oh, this is a Republican hit job. That excuse gets weaker when the story comes through the media they usually respect. And after that, you saw the panic, right? Big Democrats started backing away. The party started looking for the exit door. And then reports came out that Platner did not just want to step aside cleanly. He allegedly wanted a say in who replaced him, family, as you guys can see right here on this Washington Examiner, on Washington Examiner article here. So, with that being said, that is crazy, family. Because imagine a player costing the team the game and then saying, I will leave the court, but only if I get to pick who takes my spot. That is not accountability. That is holding the party hostage. And this is where the whole thing becomes bigger than Graham Platner, because this shows you what happens when a party ignores warning sign after warning sign because they think a candidate can win. In accounting, if you ignore one bad number, it becomes a bad report. If you ignore the bad report, it becomes an audit problem. If you ignore the audit problem, now everybody's asking who signed off on it, right? That is what Democrats are dealing with right now. They signed off on this man because they wanted the seat. Now the bill came due.
Pod Save America, people that pushed that dirtbag, and they dismissed those things in the New York Times article. Maybe they ought to apologize to the women that clearly they didn't believe or they dismissed that.
The one thing I know about Republicans, when we had a very bad candidate and found out, we didn't vote for that person. Right. We walked away.
For better or for worse.
Yeah. When Matt Gaetz came forward, we got rid of him.
Yeah.
The audience is hysterical laughing.
I was going to say we should play it again, but you heard it. Anybody? The table's open.
I do want to get in here because this is a really serious issue, as funny as that Kevin McCarthy clip was. But these are damning allegations. They are credible. They are corroborated. They are horrific. This woman's incredibly brave for coming forward. But my issue is this. I mean, Graham Platner should drop out. But I thought he should have dropped out at the Nazi tattoo. I think he should have dropped out at defaming Purple Heart recipients and a fallen Navy SEAL. Homophobic slurs, bigoted posts in the past, even previously slandering sexual assault victims. And there was another accuser who came out, who I've known for over 15 years, who accused him of what I would characterize as domestic violence when they had dated. And that wasn't enough. And many people dismissed her claims because she had worked for Republicans in the past. And they didn't take them seriously. Domestic violence should be a no. It should be an absolute no.
All of that's true, but I don't want to hear from the Epstein Protector Party, okay?
Yeah. No, but then it becomes a race to the bottom.
and you know the saying we like to use here, Maya Angelou, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. And it takes a tremendous courage for sexual assault victims to speak of what's been done to them, and especially in such a public way. So I'm glad people have gotten to the point for their off-ramp, but like Alyssa, I was off Platner a long time ago due to so many problematic things you just named as well. But it is a disgusting time in politics where we decide what we're willing to morally accept based on the jersey you're wearing. And if you are one of those people that was willing to plug your nose, you're the problem.
Well, then I'm the problem because I was one of those people, and I said it, if I lived in Maine, I would have, plugged my nose and I would have voted for him anyway. I think that we are in a time of existential crisis in this country. I think Republicans fall in line. They don't fall in love. Democrats want to fall in love and not fall in line. You know, the Republican Party, the bar is so very low. I cannot believe that they want to try to assume the moral high ground on the Republican Party. Right. I mean, you can miss me with all that, especially when you have Pete Hegseth, who was confirmed by the Senate in 2025 as the head, as a cabinet member, as the defense secretary, when he had drinking allegations. His sister-in-law submitted a sworn affidavit describing his drinking problem. And in order to get confirmed, he pledged that he wouldn't drink on the job. Number two, he had a tattoo controversy, not one, but two tattoo controversies. One was a Deus Vult tattoo, which is used by white nationalist groups. Two, he has a Jerusalem cross tattoo, which has been interpreted as an extremist symbol. And finally, in 2017, a woman claimed he had sexually assaulted her after a conference. She reported that assault immediately. She had a sexual assault examination. And in 2020, and he says it was a consensual encounter. And in 2020, he paid her $50,000 to settle the claim. Yet,
why not condemn them all? Because I condemn them all.
But the Republicans didn't do that.
Gates,
the Republicans confirmed him, and
I'm a Republican right here condemning anyone who's been credibly accused of sexual abuse.
I'm talking about the Republican Party as a whole.
So would you be comfortable?
They are the Epstein file protection party.
You'd be comfortable still voting for Graham Platner if you lived in Maine?
Can I just say one thing about this?
Take the moral high ground.
I really think that this is good timing for the Democrats because Susan Collins and this Platner person, who should have been thrown out with the Nazi tattoo and what have you.
Agreed.
We all agree on that. But they were neck and neck, basically. So if they put
he was actually leading
if they put what should we call it?
A reasonable, not offensive, not assaulting, not a Nazi. They have a week to if he drops out.
In all the state of Maine, they can't find somebody who hasn't been accused
They have someone.
And I'm going to stop it right there for a second. Because you're talking about The View, this is implosion, family. Because that moment told the whole story in plain English. Alyssa Farrell Griffin basically ran through the list of things that should have made Democrats stop and ask, is this really the person we want carrying our banner? As you hear them discussing it right now, can they find anyone else in Maine? They're talking about the vetting problem. They're talking about the warning signs. They're talking about the fact that this was supposed to be a major Senate race, not some random city council race where nobody did their homework. And she was right, Alyssa Farrell Griffin, on that part. Whether you like Alyssa or not, she asked the basic question. How did Democrats have all this time to find someone to run against Susan Collins in a race they knew mattered and still end up here? Family, that is not bad luck. That is bad process. That is what happens when the only question becomes, can this person beat the Republican instead of can this person handle the light? Then Sunny Hostin jumps in and gives us one of the most honest political moments you will see on daytime TV. She says, I believe in character. I believe morals matter, but I will hold my nose and vote for Platner. And now you see her demeanor change and saying he should step down. Family, pause right there because that sentence is the whole contradiction. She is saying the moral standard matters, but not enough to change her vote. She is saying character matters, but power matters more at one point. And she is saying he should drop out, but if he does not drop out, she will still help put him in office. That is not a small contradiction. That is the foundation cracking. Because if someone is so bad that you admit they should leave the race, why would you still vote for them? If the standard is real, it should cost you something. That is how you know it is real, right? A standard that only applies when it's easy is not a standard. That is just a talking point. And then the whataboutism started, right? Sonny pivoted to Pete Hegseth, as we'll get to. And that is the move they always do. When cornered on one Democrat, they say, But what about this Republican? But family, let's slow down and separate the issues like adults. A drinking allegation is not the same thing as a grape allegation, okay? A Christian tattoo is not the same thing as a Nazi link tattoo. And due process is not the same thing as believe all women no matter what. Republicans, for the most part, never built their whole brand around believe all women. They have usually said allegations should be investigated, evidence should matter, and people deserve due process. You can like that or dislike that, but that is the standard they claim. Democrats are the ones who spend years saying believe survivors, believe women character matters, decency matters, and moral leadership matters. So when Democrats turn around and say, well, Republicans have bad candidates too, that does not erase the hypocrisy. It actually proves the point because Republicans did not promise the same thing Democrats promised. If I tell you I am vegan and then you catch me eating wings in a parking lot, I cannot point at you and say, well, you eat wings too. Yeah, but you never claimed to be vegan. I did. That is the difference, family. The person who made the higher claim has the higher burden to live by it. And that is why the Hegseth pivot did not work when it comes to our leader of the Department of War. Then they went to Epstein, the Epstein protector party, quote unquote. Line came out like that was supposed to make the Platner question disappear. But again, family, slow down. Epstein was arrested on federal sex trafficking charges during Trump's first administration. Right? Is that a fact? Under Biden, we did not see some big public wave of full accountability that answered all the questions, nor did the Epstein files come out. And now with the newer file fight, people can still argue it is not enough. And I understand that, but there has been more movement around document releases and transparency that we ever seen before during our current president and the Trump administration. So when Democrats use Epstein as a shield every time their own side gets exposed, it becomes a deflection, not an answer. The question was not, can you name another bad thing in politics? The question was, why would you vote for Graham Platner after saying he should drop out? That is the question Sonny hosting could not really answer without exposing the truth. And the truth is simple. For a lot of these people, politics is not about standards. It is about winning. If their side does it, it is complicated. If your side does it, it is evil. If their candidate has baggage, it's a sad story about trauma, growth, and tragedy. If your candidate has baggage, it is a threat to the republic. Family, regular people see through that. Working class people see through that. We deal with real life, and we know when somebody is changing the rules because it helps them. At work, if the boss writes you up for being 5 minutes late, but then lets his favorite employee stroll in late every day, you stop respecting the policy. You do not just dislike the boss, you stop believing the rule is real. And that is what Democrats are doing to their own moral language. They are making people think the rules are fake, and once people think the rules are fake, trust is gone.
They have someone named Troy
And
Jackson.
can I just say further that the Democrats really needed to step up a little bit before this happened, thinking maybe Platner would be tainted and have to get thrown out. So who do you have in place? I see them in disarray.
A month ago, I said on the show, Jared Golden, who won in a competitive Maine district, he actually worked for Susan Collins, is now a Democrat, is a veteran. He's somebody who could. This other individual you mentioned has allegations against him as well. So we need men, whether it's Eric Swalwell, whether it's Matt Gaetz.
How about a woman?
Get out. If you
get a woman in there.
Yeah, get a woman. Janet Mills. Yeah, anyone who is not credibly accused of sexual abuse.
They should. I think he should step down at this point. I think there's no question about that. He has until, I believe, July 13th. Then by July 27th.
Her timing was actually pretty good because it's before the deadline.
Yes, and by July 27th, the Democratic Party in Maine can nominate someone else. I think Troy Jackson is more progressive, and he has sort of a platform that's more in line with Platner's, which apparently the Maine voter is more attracted to. There are a couple of other people that they can put up, but the bottom line is Democrats need 4 seats. 54% of this country said that they want the Democrats to lead this Senate. And I think we are in this existential crisis, and we need, as
we
a
have to
Democratic
have a
Party,
baseline standard we can all agree on that doesn't wear a jersey that says you have to be a certain type of human to lead us. And we cannot keep voting for that.
It would be great if we could. It would be great if we could make that the criteria. Unfortunately, we are stuck in the middle of a poop hole. And poop's falling upwards, it's falling sideways.
Well,
it's coming
from the head.
It's falling out of volcanoes.
It's coming from the volcano.
But the thing that I will say, as I've been saying the last few weeks, is do your homework. You know, the vetting process seems to have been, I don't know, thrown to the wayside, I suppose because so many people were so overwhelmed by what we ended up with that people just stopped saying they cared. But you need to care. You need to care who you're bringing in, because I'm not saying anybody's name.
You won't say his name, but we will.
I'm not going to say his name. He knows who he is.
Well, it stinks from the head, right?
Well, it no longer. It stinks from all sides. And part of that is because we, the people who have these votes, must get out and say enough.
We're going to leave it there. So where does that leave us, family? It leaves us with a simple truth. You cannot demand a standard from your opponents that you refuse to hold your own side to. That is not morality. That is tribalism. That is not principle. That is power dressed up in nice words. And this matters bigger than Graham Platner, bigger than The View, and bigger than one Senate race in Maine. Because if the people who lecture everybody about character will still vote for a candidate they admit has a serious character problems, then what are we really doing? It is like a parent punishing one child for lying, then turning around and lying right in front of them, that exact same child. Lying right in front of that exact same child and saying that is different because I'm grown. No, it's not different. The child learns the real lesson. The lesson is not do not lie. The lesson is the rule only applies when the person in charge wants it to apply. That is how you break trust, and scripture speaks right to this. Matthew chapter 7 verse 3 says, why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye but ignore the plank in your own eye? I'm going to say it again. Matthew chapter 7 verse 3 says, why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye but ignore the plank in your own eye? In plain English, Jesus is saying, do not be so busy pointing out somebody else's small mess that you ignore the big mess sitting right in front of your face. And family, that is exactly what this looks like. Democrats have spent years pointing at specks in Republican eyes. Every bad quote, every bad candidate, every allegation, every old post, every symbol, every rumor. They were ready to talk about it like the whole country was about to collapse. But when the plank is in their own side, when it is a Democrat with a communist past, a Nazi-linked tattoo controversy, claims about veterans, domestic violence allegations, and now the reported rape allegation, he denies. Suddenly, the conversation becomes complicated. Suddenly, it becomes strategy. Suddenly, it becomes, well, I would hold my nose. No, family, that is the plank. And before anybody gets mad, let me give the non-spiritual version too. Any standard you are not willing to apply to your own side is not a principle, it is a weapon. You are not using it to find truth, you are using it to win fights, and people eventually notice the difference. Life wisdom is simple. In life, you get what you tolerate. If you tolerate lying, you get more lying. If you tolerate disrespect, you get more disrespect. And if you tolerate corruption because the corrupt person is useful, you get more corruption. And if a party tolerates a candidate with a Nazi-linked tattoo controversy and serious violence allegations because they think he can help them win a Senate seat, then they should not act shocked when more candidates like that start showing up, because the system rewards what it accepts. And that is a real lesson here. Stop telling America character matters if character only matters when the other side messes up. Stop saying believe women if the woman has to pass a political background check first. And stop saying democracy is on the line if your solution is to excuse anything on your own side and what they do. Family, we need a common sense again, okay? We need common sense again. We need one scale, not a red scale and a blue scale, one scale. Because in accounting, I'm going to tell you, in accounting, if the numbers are wrong, they are wrong. It does not matter whose department make the mistake. Truth has balance, or it has to balance. I should say truth has to balance. What's the saying go? Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. And do you think Sonny Houston said the quiet part out loud? Do you think Sonny Houston said the quiet part out loud? Do you think Democrats ignored the warning signs because they wanted that Maine Senate seat? Drop your thoughts below, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share this with somebody who needs this breakdown in plain English. Spread that peace, love, and positivity, and let the love supersede the hate, family. I'll catch you next one. Peace.